I inserted the key into the deadbolt lock of my barracks door. I snapped it off so no other key could go in. While authorities wasted time trying to get inside, I'd be long gone. I put the heavy military rucksack on my back, jumped on my motorcycle, and cranked it to life. I was officially AWOL, absent without leave. Years before, I'd committed a crime, and it had caught up to me. Military investigators had the evidence, and they brought me in for questioning. They restricted me to base and laid out the trajectory of my consequences. My days as a free man were numbered. I knew it, and I was scared. Scared enough to leave everyone I loved and everything I had behind. What scares me these days is rejection. I'm afraid, right here, right now. I'm terrified. So why? Why dig up something that's best left buried? Because it's not buried. It's encrusted. It's just scabbed over. And every time I brush against it, even lightly, it bleeds again. It oozes. This process has been a real exposure. Like when a surgeon cuts into a patient looking for an infection, shines a light, probes, and explores. And as I'm poking these places in me that have been covered by scar tissue for decades, it hurts. But on the other side, there's glory. There's redemption. It's a gruesome healing process, but it's beautiful. And I'm showing up for it. In 12-step programs, they encourage you to do the next right thing. So for me, standing here, opening up and sharing and facing my fears is the next right thing for me. The results of me sharing is not up to me. It's not mine to control. It's up to God. Mine is the obedience to walk in. Now, as I was on the run, I'd make my way through back roads to avoid getting caught. I'd park my motorcycle in desolate woods. As I approached toll booths, would lean my motorcycle as far as I could and ravenously scoop up every nickel, dime, and quarter that I could find. I was desperate. All because I was trying to avoid the consequences of my actions. I've resolved to not avoid things. I've resolved to stop being afraid. I choose to be bold and courageous. So I'm opening up because I want you and you and you and him and her and them to know that you can overcome a thing. even a shameful thing, and be redeemed. And if there's redemption for me, then there's redemption for you, and you, and you, and her, and him, and them. Now, what brought me out of my confused and terrified state while I was on the run was a friend and former supervisor, a mentor. I traveled all the way across the United States on the run for his help. And he listened and he heard me. But then he gave me a reality check. You need to turn yourself in, face it, and deal with the consequences no matter what happens. And then it's done. Afterwards, you can go on and live your life. Still scared, I kept running. But another voice of reason sealed the deal. I would listen to talk radio. Particularly, I liked the Michael Reagan radio program. He's the son of former President Ronald Reagan. And one day on his show, he opened up his childhood trauma and the aftermath. He put it out there in the open and faced it. Moved, I called in and actually spoke to him. And he encouraged me to face my demons. And he reassured me, like my supervisor did, that if I continued along this path, I would experience a life of perpetual suffering. His advice was the same. Turn yourself in and deal with it, and then put it behind you. So I did. I called my commander, and I rode to the nearest air base and surrendered. And as I faced my punishment for my actions, what I dreaded most never came to pass. What I knew for certain would happen didn't. And that's God's grace. And through God's grace, I finished my time in the Air Force with an honorable discharge. But life wasn't happily ever after from there. You see, 17 years later, and 7 years ago, this was the state of my life. I had already been divorced twice and was facing divorce a third time. I needed a car. I was working as a server at IHOP. I was struggling. I couldn't make ends meet. And then I heard about Wheels for Hope, a program where you could apply to get a car at a deeply discounted price, if any. But you had to be referred by a sponsoring agency. I saw StepUp on that list. So I called and made an appointment. They said, yeah, we'll refer you after you complete our life skills course. Life skills? I have life skills. I was a non-commissioned officer in the United States Air Force. I was a former staff sergeant. I led troops. I went through leadership academies. I had a bachelor's degree. I even went through seminary. I used to be the director of Christian education at a prominent church. I know life skills. I raised 3 kids. I was a mentor to several others. Heck, I even taught mentors how to be mentors. I don't need to take a class on life skills. Got this. Then I started to think, if you're such a know-it-all, Mr. Smart Guy, why don't you have your life together? Why is your bank account overdrawn? Why don't you have any savings? Why is your electricity about to be turned off? See, there was a disconnect between what I intellectually knew and how I lived it out in my life. So I swallowed my pride, I shut my mouth, and I opened my mind. I enrolled, and I was accepted, and that was the beginning of my journey with StepUp. The program took place over 50 Wednesdays, an entire year of my life. But it wasn't just a year of my life. The staff, volunteers, the community leaders, they all gave a year of their lives too. It literally took a tribe. One of the best parts of the life skills program was that you get a co-partner, a mentor, someone to walk beside you, someone to show up for you each and every week, and someone to care. My mentor, John, was there for me during that process, and he's still here for me today. See, what brought me to StepUp was that I needed a car. But looking deeper, I didn't just need transportation. I needed transformation. I needed hope. Partners. I needed revitalization of the person I once was, but had lost myself when I fell into that ditch. StepUp offered me that hand up and that push forward that I needed. Now, I abide, not only in the law of the land, sir, but in the loving hands of God, who wets the clay of my life and remolds me. And during that time, he used StepUp as his hands on the potter's wheel. Now I'm married to my bride and joy, Danielle, a woman of immense grace. She's my safe haven. And we're not only married, but we're business partners. We own a dog grooming salon. And we're disciples striving to live out our calling. By the way, I grew up in a valueless home. My father wasn't there for us, and my mother was absent in many ways. It was a climate of misaligned morals. And without my dad there, I didn't have that guidance, that masculinity. I wish I would have gotten it, but I didn't. But through God's help, I father differently than I was fathered. Recently, I started mentoring our son, our youngest son, into adulthood. And Danielle and I asked him before we started, how did you think you would make this transition? He said, I just guessed I'd figure it out on my own. No, we told him. We love you too much to leave it to chance. For too long, I tried to figure out life on my own too. But God interceded and reminded me that he loves me too much to leave it to chance. I'm on a journey of healing and self-forgiveness. And sometimes it's hard to reconcile who I was then with who I am now and where I'm going in the future. It is a healing process. And it's grueling. Healing isn't easy. It's hard, but it's beautiful. And I'm showing up for it. I'm not alone, even though it feels lonely sometimes. We are not alone. There is fellowship right here at StepUp. Even in people you don't know, you have a tribe willing to help you. And as part of that tribe, you can help too. The question is how? Is it to serve? Is it to participate? Is it to give? Is it to give more generously than you intended to give when you walked through that door? Whatever your interactions with your StepUp tribe, I'm here to encourage you. Be open. Be real. Be raw. Even be unmasked. Because in your authenticity and your generosity, you're transforming lives, especially your own.